All right, folks, it's time. So get ready, get set, get comfortable, grab yourself a drink, maybe a little popcorn, because here comes another episode of The Next Conversation. I hope you enjoy. Boom, and we're recording. I know we kind of like started our talk before the light went on, but now it is because I know every drop of this might have is full of entertainment. So
Yes.
rather catch it all, and then worst case scenario, you the listener can just do a little self editing in your ears. So anyway, keep going. Sorry.
That's well said, Chris. So first of all, I if you want to fast forward this, I I I understand, but you can go fuck yourself.
I mean,
First
there's
of all,
20. You're only fast forward in 25 seconds, so don't worry about it. But go
but
ahead. So yeah, you were at the beach.
yeah, I was at the beach. But before I get to the beach, I want to always big up Christopher Corvo because he's the man. People think it's not my podcast, it's Chris's podcast, and he does a lot of work behind the scenes. He produces the whole shit. So always big up you for allowing me into the nest. And then we'll get into Joe Mark, who seems to have lost this idea.
It's all
And
good. It's all good.
right, it's all
We all
good.
get busy, so life
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. I'm not. I'm just. This is all in jest. I'm not really upset. But yesterday I was at the Rockaways, and the Rockaway. It was picture perfect beach day. You couldn't have scripted a better beach day. It was like 79 degrees, clear skies. The water has been warm already because we had that massive heat wave, as I'm sure you know, through like the Northeast
Oh
for a
yeah.
while. Yeah. And so the water was it was a little chilly, but it wasn't like ice cold. So the water is nice. And it was like 79, sun setting. You're on the Rockaways, 92nd. I was on 92nd Street with a couple of friends, and I was so happy in that moment.
That's awesome.
It's really good. And also, what I didn't realize, because I hadn't been to the Rockaways since pre-pandemic, we're talking like 2018. I haven't been to the like summer 2018, so it's almost 4 full years since I've been there. There's a ton of new luxury buildings going up. It's kind of getting, I wouldn't say gentrified because it's still native New York where you get mostly brownstones in small houses and like
Yeah.
strip malls. But it's the neighborhood is changing. People are moving actively to the Rockaways, and that's interesting because remember when Sandy just leveled it?
Yeah.
It's coming back. It's almost back to where like the glory days. So I'm interested to see Coney Island. Last point is I'm interested to see Coney Island, and I might check that out just to see what's going on. But
So no, so real quick, so like I flew to Mexico for a work trip
yeah, nice,
a
nice.
month ago, and I stayed in a hotel in Far Rockaway, and even I could see like even the hotels that are going up have kind of like a Manhattan, Chelsea village type of look.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like you can see the architecture, you can see like what the style is going for, and just to like piggyback on what you're saying, I think with COVID, like not to beat a dead horse, but
Mhm.
I think even in this, you had a lot of people who left cities in general, but I also think those who still want to live in a city, the neighborhoods you're willing to live in is going to change, right? Like if you can live in New York and work remote, then you don't proximity to, let's say, Manhattan is no longer matters. Like you could live by the beach all
It's
year
cool.
round, right? If they're, you know what I mean? Like people
Hmm.
might pick different locations to live in because now it's no longer, all right, how many subways am I going to have to take to get into Manhattan or get into downtown or get into Midtown? It's like, oh no, maybe I like Far Rockaway. It's a fun, hip place to live. And maybe I go into the city twice a week or once a week. I think you're going to see that. Like, I think parts of New York are going to kind of parts that were not gentrifying, you might find start to gentrify, especially when people don't have to work in an office anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's an excellent point because there's a neighborhood in the southeast Bronx right next to the Bronx River called Port Morris, and there's a ton of luxury, but those
Oh yeah,
40-story
yeah.
monstrosities that are going up there, which I dislike, but it's inevitable. It's
I
gonna
mean, New
happen.
York is all gonna look the same, and like
Yeah.
give it like another decade if people still want to live in New York. But if as it, the parts that are still have a little shade are gonna start to get safe, or I mean, they're already in many cases safe, but they're gonna get gentrified. Like if you think about it, even Chelsea, like Chelsea
Mm-hmm.
was the
Mm-hmm.
meatpacking district, like the Apple Store, for example, where Joey Boombots still works. It's right next to what was considered like a project building. Like if you think about it, like you go down
Yeah.
that street, you go down Ninth Avenue. That's a
Mhm.
project building.
I know.
It no longer has the appeal, the look, and taste of, let's say, a project building, but that's what it was 15, 20 years ago. And then many of the residents are still people who lived there
They're
15,
still
20 years
there. Yeah,
ago.
I was just gonna say that the NYCHA buildings are still there. They're still there.
Yeah, so
So
I mean, I think that's going to happen. It has happened, but I also think it's going to happen even more because with COVID, someone might put up a luxury building in far Bronx, and that whole area, which was like kind of far from Midtown, people will be like, "Oh no, I want to live in Manhattan. I'll live out that far part in the Bronx. It'll be cheaper. I can get like a nice luxury apartment." Yeah, it's gonna kind of do some damage probably to some of those neighborhoods, but it'll be kind of interesting to see.
yeah, so there's what so when I was there yesterday and they were they're building a Starbucks and a Whole Foods in Rockaway. So that's how you know. You
Yeah,
remember that
yeah.
episode of South Park where they're like, "Oh, we need a Whole Foods." It's the soda sopa for anyone that's familiar with South Park. It's that's how you know.
Oh
That's the
yeah.
sign. Uh,
I mean, it is a sign. Like that's. I mean, let's not. I don't want to be like racially profiled, but like there are certain grocery stores that pop into certain neighborhoods and other grocery stores that are in other neighborhoods.
mm-hmm.
Seatown, for example, when you start to see Seatowns go out of business and Whole
Whole
Foods
Foods
and
or
Trader
Trader
Joe's
Joe's.
start to
Yeah,
pop up, I mean that is a legitimate sign that a neighborhood
correct.
is transforming.
Yeah, but also on a lighter note, there's that subway ride on the A when you're above ground through Broad Channel where you can see like the ocean.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool. It's pretty nice.
yeah,
It's
it's great.
yeah. All
So
right.
wait, so you spent the day at the beach?
Whole so I went so this was my entire day. I met up with Joe. He came because I needed my sunglasses for the beach, and Joseph was nice enough. I wish he was here talking with us, but he was nice enough to meet up with me just to give me my sunglasses. And I got my sunglasses. I watched the Arsenal Leicester game, and then I went to the beach. And then Joe went to me. He went to the gym, and then he met up with Boris, which is funny. That's why I want to call him out. I'm going to call him out on air now. Anytime Boris texts Joe to do something, it's like Forrest Gump running through the America, like meeting up with him. He's like, I'm gonna do it immediately. But that's a joke from Amit. I'm not gonna steal that from him. That's what Amit says. Anytime Boris hits like puts the bat signal out, Joe comes flying out like Michael Keaton in the old school Batmobile. and and so that happened. But I mean, I love Joe is one of my best friends. I love the man. Truly love the man. He came all the way to Midtown to just to give me sunglasses because I told him I need them. I'm like, I'm gonna be on the beach all day. I need my sunglasses, and he fucking delivered it to me. Good man. And so,
Joe, the prince
yeah,
among men.
yeah, exactly. It's just what a gesture that is. And so I took the train all the way to fucking like I connected to that shuttle that you get on to go to the 90s like by Jacob Reese,
Mm-hmm.
and it was beautiful. Corvo, the crow would have been so happy on that beach because it wasn't one of those like insanely hot humid days. It was picture perfect. The water wasn't that cold. There was music going, there was like comedy going, there was people dancing on the boardwalk. It was just like I was in my head. I said, why haven't I come to the beach more often? That was my first time in the beach in New York since, like I said, since like 2018, man.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought you'd gone. But yeah, I mean,
No,
that's me whenever I go to the beach. When you have a good beach day, which for me
it's
is very
beautiful.
rare,
Yeah.
yeah, that's when you ask the question of like, why have I not done this more frequently?
I know.
That's true of a lot of things, right? It's like when you haven't gone out for a while, or you have like a good meal at a fine restaurant. You're like, why
Yeah.
am I not doing this every weekend?
I know exactly.
Um,
It's true. That's a good point because there is good food out there in the Rockaways, like Tacoay Beach. We went to Tacoay Beach, which is a great Mexican restaurant in the Rockaways. If anyone wants to go there, I highly
oh,
recommend it.
interesting, interesting.
Um, but I mean, you don't have to go that. There's everything you want. If you want to go to an Irish pub, there's like one Irish pub out there.
Yeah,
There's Mexican restaurants, there's Italian restaurants. There's also like people cruising the beach selling food. Like they're on either, what's the word I'm looking for, ATVs. They're on like those ATVs on the beach, and they'll fucking, you can get a tamale. You can get a
yeah.
tamale right on the beach, right
You know
there.
what I was thinking about? So like I'm gonna segue for a second, but we're
Yeah,
on topic. Is that
yeah.
so I was watching like I've watched Fuck It's Delicious, the Bronson show.
Yeah, I love that show. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny like in that show a lot of times cuz it's very New York show. That's a very New York show. I mean, they're as like New York as you can get, like
Mm-hmm.
old school blue collar New York.
I love it.
But
Yeah.
I always think it's funny. Like one of the guys commented because like you can go into certain parts of the Bronx, Harlem, and you'll have guys selling like mixed drinks like in containers, right? Like
The
like
Nutcrackers. Yeah.
right. And
Mhm.
it's just like I always get a kick out of it. Think about it sometimes. It's like as a species, like how trusting we are, right? Because like in the show, the one of the guys is like, you never know what you're gonna get with one of these, and it's kind of true because it's like here's some random dude selling these things, and you just trust, give him like $5. You trust that this thing in this beverage, this
Mhm.
plastic container that he mixed in his probably his bathtub or his kitchen it is like not going to kill you. It's just kind of a funny thing. Like we just
Yeah.
trust. We have a lot of faith. You have a lot of. As much as people say like they don't trust humans, like we have a lot of trust in people. Anytime you buy food from a street vendor, you trust that this person legitimately is trying to sell you something and doesn't is not like this is not some dark plot to just poison people. I
Right.
don't know. For some reason, it's like I get a kick out of that.
I think you're on the right path, but I'm gonna disagree with you slightly. We all know, and you know this as someone who's from the Northeast and spent significant. I'm gonna call you a New Yorker. I think you have your New York badge. If we were in the Cub Scouts, you would have your badge.
Yeah, I
You
think I
spent
did.
enough time.
I
Yeah.
spent my time. Yeah.
You're a legitimate New Yorker, and there's you know that that person across from you that you're dealing with this transaction is, they're on their hustle.
Yeah.
They want you to enjoy this because they their goal is you're gonna tell all your friends and your family, yo, you that guy on the beach, go get that nutcracker from him. That shit
Yep.
was banging. See, that's his job. That's what he wants.
Oh yeah,
So
you're
yeah,
absolutely right. It's
yeah,
like this is a human business. This is a personality
yeah,
business. Exactly.
exactly.
It's like word of mouth matters. Um,
Exactly. That's how we that you it there's people like that, and I saw them on on the beach yesterday. You're right. Where imagine someone going out and walking up Rockaway Beach all day long as their job. You know how much money that guy probably made just selling like liquor, like sugar liquor drinks? It's basically
oh
jungle juice.
yeah, I
And
mean that's exactly what it is. It's
yeah,
like Jungle Juice is under many names. It is the same
that's
thing.
right. Exactly.
That would actually be a fun episode to do because it's like I remember I read something at one point. Like how many people in New York make their living or a good chunk of their living like someone in their household is running in essence an illegal food business. Like
That's how I think about it. Exactly. Yeah.
those are, I mean, they are. That's legitimately what they are. Anytime you see one of these little Spanish ladies making like, selling churros at like on the L train, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing the what is the almost like the snow cones, the Spanish snow cones. What is
Oh,
that?
the piraguas.
Yes, that or any of the, yeah, a lot, even like a lot of these like small little food trucks or the corn, all that stuff is illegal businesses. I mean, I think it's just a lot of times cops just kind of turn a blind eye towards it, but it's 100% illegal business. They're not paying. There's so many things you have to operate a food truck in New York. The amount of like licenses you need to get is
Mm-hmm.
insane. I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. I looked into it. It's like you need license from like the sanitation department, from the food truck department. You have to have this permit, that permit. None of these people have those things. They're just like on their hustle, trying to make a dollar, trying to like
Trying
feed
to
their
pay their
family,
pay
pay
rent and
their rent.
put food on the
Yeah.
table. Exactly. That's
Especially those guys selling nutcrackers. I mean, you can't even get a permit for that. That's a 100% illegal business.
correct, exactly, and that's why I love that you brought up that topic, because I think if you're a tourist, you may be a little weary, but if you're a native, you're New Yorker, you're gonna say this guy is just trying to put. He has two kids back home. He or she, it doesn't matter, because
Yeah.
there's women that do it too. They like you said, like they self it, whether it's food, drinks, whatever, groceries. Sometimes it's just full on like oranges and shit.
Yeah.
um,
Mango sliced up,
it
you know
doesn't
what I
matter.
mean?
It doesn't matter. It's
No.
anything, and they're all they're trying to do is get to the next month's rent, put food on the table for their family, and as a fellow New Yorker, both of us know, like they're not. I'm never ever hesitant of thinking, oh, this might be dangerous to do. Never, never.
Oh no, I've eaten
Yeah.
so much street food. Like I have no qualms because I have an intrinsic trust. I agree with you. Like I
Mm.
have no fear that you are going to intentionally do me harm because it's not
Mm-hmm.
in your interest,
That's
right?
right.
It's like
Yeah.
the food truck guys. They don't want to do you harm because it's like if you start to tell people or it gets out that let's say their food quality is not good and people are getting sick, I mean, it's only going to hurt them. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
All
Let's
right,
get.
all right, dude. So yeah, let's get to the crux of this conversation because
You're
we
gonna like
really
this. Yeah.
we called this meeting of the minds to to talk about your experience doing DMT
Mm-hmm.
and just to put a little bit of setting of the table. So it's kind of interesting. Like we've talked about psychedelics on this podcast a handful of times,
Yep.
and it comes up kind of as like a continuing thread that gets pulled into a variety of our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting also in the last couple of years how much psychedelics has come into the conversation of many podcasts, many YouTube channels, and how many people of both the, let's call it the mainstream and the, I don't even know, the YouTube stream, for lack of a better word, are
Yeah.
doing ayahuasca and are talking about their experiences, or doing DMT and talking about their experiences. And really, you got to throw, bones to Joe Rogan because I would say
That's a good point. Yeah.
he was probably one of the first Neanderthals to like actually,
Like champion it. Yeah.
yeah, and talk about it who was more mainstream, let's call it that, because I think psychedelics have been talked about in a lot since the 60s, but it was a little bit in like certain circles, and if you didn't know the people in those circles, like the Terrence McKenna, like if
Mm-hmm.
you never heard of him or knew about him or looked up any of his audio conversations or any of that stuff, you would not know. But you have like a Joe Rogan who kind of has consumed these people, but is a little bit more mainstream, who kind of walks in a lot more different circles, who kind of, I would say, yeah, has championed psychedelics or is one of the people.
Yeah. It basically he there's still people that are weary of it, but there's no more stigma attached to it. That's
No, I mean,
yeah.
so here's an interesting note. Psychedelics in the 60s, I believe. I'm not going to give you exact dates, but like
Mm.
in the six, there was a period in the time where psychedelics started to be studied a lot. This is around the 60s. Doctors were studying it. You could get,
Mm-hmm.
I think, grants and whatnot to kind of do research on these various molecules. And then there became almost like a freeze on all this from like the 60s up until now, like the last 20 years, where you're starting to see a resurgence on research and
Mm-hmm.
more of an openness to like, let's experiment with these things and see what useful aspects we can draw from them.
Yeah.
So with all that said, right, I've done some psychedelics. Rob has done some
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
psychedelics. Birchin, who we talked about in length about psychedelics, has done mushrooms and
Yeah.
whatnot. But
Yep.
I've yet to talk to someone who has done DMT, and
Uh,
that is what leads us to this conversation today. Because Bobby A has experienced
I
the
finally did it.
God
Yeah.
molecule,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of curious to hear what his experience was like and to ask some questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So I leave it to you, Roberto.
All right. So Corvo, I'm first unabashedly, I'm gonna tell you what the experience was, so that you don't. I don't want to taint your analysis of it. If you get me, I'm not gonna give my opinions. I'm just gonna factually state what happened to me, and then I want you to tell me how like what you think about this,
Yeah,
and then
I'll ask
yeah,
questions after that. But
correct,
I want stream of consciousness. What
exactly,
was it? And then we can kind of
exactly, yeah,
interpret it
yeah.
as best we can interpret
Right. Exactly. Perfect. So there's I hadn't realized before I did it. And first of all, I did it with company. So I've heard that changes everything. I wasn't alone. So that you can feel we can talk about energy after that, all that later. I said I wasn't going to get into analysis. I got to stop. I got to cut
it.
myself off.
Yeah, so give me.
So
I'm
I'm going
gonna
to
kind
tell
of
you.
give you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you the walls of which I want you to kind of
Yeah.
walk through. One is like, and like, so we'll start with just kind of like the basic, like
The
who, what, where,
setting.
when, why,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So like, where did you do it? What did you do? Like, what the material was? How did you consume it? Quantity, and then yeah, like when you did consume it, like how long did it take you for it to kick in? How
Y-
long did the experience last? What did you see? And
Yeah.
then we can go
That,
from there.
all right, that's good. So, yeah. So I'm gonna cut out all my Bobby A brain analysis, and I'm just gonna state facts. So here's what happened. I was at my friend's place, and my friend, who's, let's just say, he's been troubled recently, as we all were during the pandemic, but he discovered a like delivery service in New York that can get you DMT, amongst other things, amongst other psychedelics. So he proposed to us. There was three of us there, and he proposed to us. He's like, "Hey, if you guys want to do it, I can get it right now." And excuse me, excuse me. And I hadn't realized that it was only like an 8 to 10 minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was because I we've told that story with Birchin where I did acid and I was fucked for like 4 hours and I walked all the way to the Bronx. But there's this was different.
Okay.
So he calls it up. Guy comes, we talk. Even the guy that was there, if anyone has seen the HBO show High Maintenance, it was a lot like that. So we the guy even chilled for a little bit. He didn't do it with us, but he hung out. We talked for a little bit. He left, and we had like a cool like 5 minute conversation with him. So we do it, and it was in a wax oil form, like you know how you smoke weed out of a vapor pen.
Mm-hmm.
It was that way.
Almost like a dab.
Correct. And we I was instructed he instructed us because my friend has done it several times. So he goes, take one hit, hold it in as long as you possibly can, even if it hurts. Then take another quick hit and then let it out. And then on that third hit, lose your entire breath, like fill up your entire lungs with it, and then also hold it again as long. It's you're gonna cough and it might hurt because I'm not a cigarette smoker. He's a cigarette smoker, so he can hold in shit easier than I. He's like, if you cough, that's good. Don't worry about it. Just even if it hurts, hold it in.
Yeah, so you're trying to
So then,
consume and get as much of it into your blood and into your system.
exactly. So I did it. If we both did it as exactly as instructed, because both of us were novices. Another friend of ours who I won't name him, but there's, but I think Corvo already knows who it is. And,
I think I know who I'm
here,
dealing with, but
yeah,
well, off the air, I'll ask. I'll
yeah,
confirm.
yeah. So,
You can
um,
give me hints if you want.
I think you already know. I know you already know. I don't, but so we both did it first time, first like virgin users of DNP, and he says he was instructing us how to do it, so we do it, and then he gives me a bandana to put around my eyes. He goes, I recommend you sit on the couch because you may lose yourself at some, but in a good way. You're not gonna lose consciousness, which is also strange to me with DMT. You don't lose yourself like I did with assay, where I couldn't figure out how to function. it,
Yeah.
it just focuses you it just focuses you and it's almost like the pinnacle of concentration. And he's like, I recommend you sit down and put this over your eyes because you may, like, all you want to do is relax and close your eyes and just drift. So I do that, and he was right. So I close my eyes, I put the bandana over my head. I'm like laying comfortable as you can ever be on any couch ever. And I start traveling. So I can see myself flying through some kind of vortex tunnel, but there's geometric shapes everywhere. So I'm seeing triangles and circles and squares everywhere, but only in green and red. Those were the two main colors.
Hmm.
And in I've always known a square is or a rectangle. They're not really squares or rectangles. They're just two triangles placed together.
Mm-hmm.
So the only two real true shapes, I think we've talked about this on the podcast. Um, the only true shapes are triangles and square and circles, excuse me. Those are the only real shapes. And so I'm seeing them everywhere in green, in red, but in patterns, in like vortexes and like wormholes type. So I'm flying them. It's almost like, what's that show? What's that sci-fi show? Where you fly through the vortex. I forgot the name.
Sliders.
Sliders. Bingo. And I'm flying through. Uh, think of think about it as like a universal cosmic wormhole, but I'm surrounded by shapes. But I can. The weird part, Corvo, is I can see myself. I could see myself
Yeah, you're
flying
like
through it.
watching yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, almost from like outside of yourself,
Yeah.
watching the scene unfold,
Yeah. Exactly. And
which
I
is interesting in and of itself. It's almost like you're
true.
watching a dream.
hmm hmm And I then I exit the vortex, which is only the introduction, and then I see a ton of stars. I feel like I'm in an astronaut in space, but I have no suit on. I have no like NASA gear, anything, and I'm in space, and I see planets and stars. And then a dragon, like a green dragon, appears in the middle of space. Gigantic dragon. But the dragon is comprised of zeros and ones. So you know the scene in the Matrix where Keanu Reeves, Neo, sees how the world looks in the Matrix, and everything is
Mm-hmm.
0 1 0 1 in green, 0 1 0 1.
Yeah.
And That's what I saw.
Binary. That's
Binary.
binary code.
And that's how the dragon looked. The dragon was just like rotating, moving, zero and one, zero ones, but it was a dragon. I could see the form, but it was like that Matrix scene. And then a gigantic red wolf face comes to me, and it's like snarling and like salivating and almost drooling, like he's gonna attack me. But then it stops, like it barks at me. I guess it was trying to scare me at some way. It's like he's like chomping at me. But when I didn't back down, then he came over and like because like I said, I could see myself. And when I didn't back down, he came over and he licked like the top of my hand. It's a giant, like ferocious looking wolf. So that happened, and then serpents start coming all out of space to all everywhere, and the green dragon is like trying to subvert all the serpents, and then the green dragon fights a red dragon, also
Oh,
010101, but it was a red dragon versus a green dragon, and they clash. And once they clash together, I it was like a snap of the finger, and I'm in some kind of room, some kind of like audience chamber, and I'm in a council, and there's five people in the council, and all of them are telling me, all they say is, stop taking yourself too seriously. This world is this, you just appreciate life in this world. Like, you're right, you're not alone. Like, there's this is the truth with a capital T. This is what you want to see. But stop taking yourself so seriously. Stop being so anxious and depressed, and stop doing all this. You're like, we're not. It wasn't, Chris. It wasn't in a derogatory way. They weren't saying like, "Oh, you're a speck of dust. You're nothing." They were saying, "Listen, we're all the same. We're all protons and neurons and atoms and cosmic dust. All of us are the same. Stop thinking you're greater than everything else. We're just blades of grass in a field, all of us, every single one of us." So they were trying to convince me. It basically, they're trying to disarm your ego.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Like,
That's what it sounds. Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like they're saying like
yeah,
you're putting all this weight on yourself
yeah, and you're
and big making yourself more than you need to be. Just enjoy and appreciate and be grateful.
exactly. That's exactly how I took it, and it touched me. Like, it makes you emotional. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah. So they're saying like,
What do they look like?
they look like the face cards in a deck of cards. There was like the jack. There was a couple of jacks. There
Like
was the
royalty
queens.
of some
Yeah,
sort.
there's the queens, the jacks. There was two queens. There were four jacks. There was two kings, and then there were the jokers. So then the jokers, the jesters, come out, and they're telling me like, go fuck yourself. Like, stop taking yourself so seriously. And I think that's why I like self-deprecation humor so
Yeah,
much, because the jokers are like, that's what humor really is. Like, this is all of like comedy. There's nothing wrong with comedy. Yes, it could be interpreted as something that's harsh. And you and I both know that when we talked about comedy on the show, is some people think that, oh, you shouldn't say certain jokes and shit like that. It's like, if it's comedy, it it's not really harmful. The only harm you could really do is to be violent to someone, or to bother someone, or do it to yourself too.
yeah,
So they're basically saying, it's like, if you want to joke around, it's fine. Like, obviously within reason. No one is trying to, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you're good. And that's what I think those jesters, it was like the Joker card symbol was trying to say to me. As long as
yeah,
you're not hurting yourself or harming anyone, which in anyone meaning including yourself. So if you're doing bad things to yourself, don't do that. So, which could mean a myriad of things when you ask me the questions. So, they say, as long as no one gets harmed, stop fucking taking yourself so seriously, man. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy this journey. This is special what you're getting. So then they go away, and I come like zooming back through the vortex, and then a curtain lifts. This is the last thing I saw, and because, like I said, the trip is only like 8 minutes,
Yeah.
and then a curtain rises, and I see like a Looney Tunes cartoon. I see a cartoon of all like the past things that I was regretting, like a cartoon of when I went to like made the decision to go to law school, and the cartoon of a decision I made when I was 10 years old, and it's like animated,
Yeah.
and an animated rendition of when the pandemic started, and I went into the abyss. I saw it was all animated, like it was like a Looney Tunes animation of it. Hanna Barbera, that's the word. It was like a Flintstones thing. So that was it, and then it ended.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So how like did you kind of like look at your clock, like your watch before and after? Did it take about was it about 10 minutes?
yeah, yeah. And
And you recall like so it never left you. Like you can like the details of it are still kind of fresh in your head. Like you held on to it,
mm-hmm. And what?
which is awesome. Which is kind of an amazing thing because a lot of psychedelics is like the memory of what you saw drifts. Right? It's like almost like you maybe the impression is left on you, but the details kind of begin to get fuzzy. Which in this case, it doesn't sound like that is happening.
No, 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 no. It was very clear, and you would appreciate this at a once I explained my trip to the two people I was with. One of my friends said, "Look at the clock right now." And when I saw five, I remember when I said I met a council of five people that all
Yeah,
looked like royalty, like cards. They looked exactly like the Queen of Hearts. It was crazy. Uh, and I said I saw three snakes, and I saw a dragon fight another dragon after I saw the first dragon, which was different. And he said, "Look at that! You just told that story, and look at the time, and it was 5:33 p.m."
that's
Eh,
crazy.
So it was. I don't. I think I was. It was like Russ Cole shit that we always talk about. It's like at
Yeah,
that moment, I connected with some kind of a life force that's
I
real.
think. Yeah, and I mean, I also because I go okay. I don't. Never mind. I'm going to continue asking questions before I give you my
Keep
own
going.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, so you did it with three people. They all did it, right? They weren't just there with you
Yes.
protecting you. They
Yeah.
also
That's right.
protect. Did you guys compare notes on like what you they saw and their experience? Like, was there any patterns that you saw amongst the three of you, or was it three unique? Like, did they walk away feeling like they had also something important had been imparted to them? Like, you kind of felt like they something was telling you a lesson you needed to know.
Correct.
Did they
Yeah.
get a similar experience?
Mm, they did, and that's the part that's giving me goosebumps now. When we all did it, when my friend who was more experienced than both of us came out of it, and I told him about the red wolf, like the giant, like just like snarling hellhound wolf. He was like, "I saw the same wolf. I was there. He came to me too."
Interesting.
And my other friend said, "I saw the same geometric patterns. Like we didn't go through the same, but he didn't have an audience. I think I had a personal audience with the council for many reasons, probably because of my own personal endeavors. But he said I saw the same geometric shapes that exactly the way you were describing in the colors. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know who these people are. I'm curious who they are.
Mm.
Did one used to have long hair?
No, but
Okay.
you worked with one of them. Not you worked with him. You know who
Okay.
he is.
All right. I mean, yeah. If I work with him, I definitely know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like imagine who it was. Dude, that's pretty. Yeah, this is the thoughts I'm having. Are one is like, when can I go to New York and
You should do
let's
it. Yeah.
let's order this thing and do it again.
Mhm.
Um, Two is like, yeah, so like the psychedelics thing is interesting, and DMT in particular, because, and this is for those of you who don't know what DMT is, but like DMT, for example, a lot of people who do DMT, there's certain, I want to say, visions or things that a lot of people tend to see. That's like the one interesting part about
It's
DMT.
uniform, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that. Not everyone is going to have the same experience, but there are certain entities that appear within many people's DMT stories. And if you're interested in that, look up DMT elves. Like that's a common, I'm going to say, entity that appears in not all, but in many people's DMT experience. Same with ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is a form of DMT.
Hmm.
There's certain things people see, like serpents or serpent gods and
Serpents
things
are
of that
big.
nature.
Yeah.
Um, so, like listening to you talk, there's certain things I start to think about. It's like one, because I don't, I go back and forth on the idea of like, do psychedelics give you access to actual living entities
Hmm.
like DMT elves? Are they actually a being, and that this substance just gives you the ability, expands your perception so you can see something that has always been there? It's just that we normally can't see. So like that's my one theory or thought when it comes to psychedelics. It is a unlocking mechanism. It is a door opening mechanism. But that which you see is actually exterior. Like you are getting access to something or to some things that exist actually within the universe. The other thought is that what, because you describe yourself as watching something, right?
Hmm.
Like it's almost like you watching yourself, like you watching a TV show of your own creation. And sometimes I wonder, it's like, is this like DMT or DMT and psychedelics in general? Is it your unconscious? Are you taking a medicine that allows you to communicate with your unconscious? And that message you got from
Hmm.
that council of royals
Yeah.
was actually like your unconscious telling you exactly like, dude, like we know this, you know this deep down in the
That's
parts of
right.
you that are below
I
the
think it's
surface of
yeah.
awareness. It's like, yo, you're meeting yourself. It's like this council is actually you meeting yourself.
Hmm.
And that council's like, dude, stop. Like,
Yeah,
come
exactly.
on, man. Like you are hurting us. Like this is like,
I think
we
it's
need
that.
to like
Yeah.
cut through the red tape. Like this is what you need to know. Like this is gonna help you. Like we gotta stop. So what do you think? Do you think it's more that like you gained
Yeah.
access to your unconscious and you were kind of almost like pure dreaming? Like all of this is just like your unconscious telling you things that you either know deep down or not taking action on or not aware of. Like what do you think?
Yeah. I did. That's you just struck me with that. That's a beautiful way to ask that question. I think it's definitely the latter. It's definitely it. I think it's an element of the former where you're saying like these things may be a way that ties all humanity and fuck humanity,
Yeah.
maybe all the living things together, including animals and plants. Anything that lives, we all have a connection. But I think it's the majority of the experience is basically your brain and your connection to the universe telling yourself like, yo, all these troubles that you're going through, all these, it's going to be all right. You just need to stop being so fucking egotistical and arrogant because you don't matter. And not saying you don't matter as an insulting, a derogatory thing.
Yeah.
It's like you don't matter because we're all in this together. We are not alone. We're all the same. And I think that's what I took from it.
Well, it's like it's kind of interesting how often people who do psychedelics talk about the destruction of the ego, like how like that is a common thing amongst a variety of like introspective psychedelics. Like acid, I feel like is a more visual thing, but like mushrooms, for example, like Me and Burchin have talked about this in length, right? Like you feel a
Mhm.
destruction of
Mhm.
the ego, like almost like a purity, like you, right? Because we all walk through life, and it's like we all have this internal monologue, critiquing us and making inflating us, and it's almost like this added this narration that's happening, right? It's our ego, um, and it causes us a lot of self harm, right? I
Exactly.
mean, that's what it
Yes.
is. That
Yes.
like that's what my impression getting from you is like. I agree with you 100%. Like you don't. You were like saying how it wasn't a negative. No, like I understand what they're saying to you. They're kind of just saying like why are you putting all of this weight on your shoulders? You're causing yourself stress
Mhm.
by trying to make yourself into more than you need to be or more than you are. Like this
That's right.
aggrandizement, like I have a mission or I have a purpose. It's like that kind of thinking can't because I have it too. Like I'm right there with you. I relate to it 100%. That's why I'm curious
Yeah.
if I had DMT, like if I would get a similar message. But I think it's true. It's like because that stuff takes you out of the moment. It makes things. It makes you behave unnaturally. It adds weight to things that shouldn't have weight. It doesn't allow you to
You're
just
right.
enjoy
That's right.
your life, whatever your life may be. Like
It makes you not who you really are, not who you want to be, not who you're trying to or who you're trying to pretend to be.
well,
Be
it
who
makes
you
you
are. Yeah.
be someone,
It
which in
tries. Yeah.
we're not being. You are like you
Yeah.
just are,
You
right? You're
just
gonna
are
do
exactly
things.
it.
You wake up, you do what you need to do. Like your life will go up, it'll go down. But like I do think I wonder if a lot of people get the same message from DMT in our generation because a lot of people we're trying to be something
Hmm.
because we watch a lot of consume a lot of media that tells us we should want to be something. We should all want to be millionaires. We
Yes.
should all want to
Yes.
be entrepreneurs. We all should want to be um, bodybuilder. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like we live in that world where like literally everyone is telling you what you should be rather than just living
What
and
you are.
being.
That's exactly you said it spot on.
You know, you're not going to enjoy a
Be
sunset
you.
if you're trying to be something.
Yeah.
You enjoy a sunset by just being and enjoying.
Yeah.
Um, I
Exactly.
listened to this one, like this. I think he's on YouTube too. He's like this Indian guru guy who got some notoriety, but he was kind of saying how he's like, people are weird this nowadays. We've forgotten how to live because we're all like people who have no pain in their life think they must feel pain. Like it's almost like we are creating harm to ourselves. Like we are adding weight. We are stressing ourselves out. We are making like we have relatively peaceful lives, yet we feel the need to like add weight and pressure and I got to be grinding harder. I got to be
Hmm.
doing this better. And it's like why are we poisoning our days when like in your vision, right?
Hmm.
The days are numbered, right? Like
They are.
you only have so many. Why are you wasting them fretting about things that are not important?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly said, and I think that's the message. I guess I mean obviously, like you said, I think
Yeah,
other
what do
other
you think? Like
people.
what do you think you got from like what was your takeaway in the weeks that since? Like cuz it's been a
Yeah,
few
it's
weeks.
been a few. I had a sense of unmistakable relief after that because mentally, like you said, I was even spiritually too. I was I was like drifting a little bit. I was a little stressed out, very anxious, like harming myself in not not in physical ways, but in overthinking things, overanalyzing, like that type of way, which is harmful for you. Uh,
Yeah.
but I once once those gestures told me to go fuck myself, I was like, "This it's like they're right. They're right. Who am I? Who am I to be complaining about anything? Not that I don't matter in like to myself. It's just in the grand scheme of what we're all going through this journey together. I know it sounds kind of cheesy to say that, but it's like we're all going through this fucking existence together, everyone's path is different. Everyone ends at a different point, but we're all equally as valuable as each
Yeah,
other. Yeah.
what did they say again? Can you reiterate
the the jesters were telling they were like they kept like coming up to me and like laughing in front of me and said, why is they kept saying, who do you think you are, who do you think you are, who do you think you are, over and over and over again. And then they literally told me to go fuck myself. They literally told me, they're like, fuck off, you're stop it. Like you said earlier, they're like, this is crazy. But and I the the comforting and why I said it was an unmistakable relief is because I didn't take it in like someone with like a giant ego be like, oh, how dare you tell me I'm the most important person in this universe. It's like there's I didn't take it that way. I took it and I was like, you're right, you are right. And then it was when you let that go, when you understand that, the relief and just like the feeling of unbridled happiness was immense after I came out of that. DMT is awesome, dude. You got to do it, Chris.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, I would say the next time I come to New York, I might. I mean, I don't want to say might, like it. That might be the perfect opportunity
Yeah.
because now that I know access was always the most difficult, and if you had a good experience from whoever you got it from,
Yeah.
I think that would be worth trying.
Yeah.
Because I think with a lot of like with mushrooms, for example, which I haven't done in a while, it's like very it's long. It's can be traumatizing. It's a lot of energy expenditure, and the lessons you learn are not as clear. Like what you're describing are very clear visions. Like you watched a movie, just the movie was in your
Yeah.
head. Whereas with mushrooms, it's like a very foggy, it's a feeling. Like you feel all of these things and these emotions, and you see some things, but it's like more at an emotional level. Whereas seems like it's more at a like a cognitive, like almost I don't say intellectual, but like you're seeing, like kind of like you don't need to decipher the code. We're just gonna tell you. It's like your
Yeah.
unconscious is like, no, no, we're not gonna give you visions
No, we're
here. You need
good.
to do this. All right.
Yeah.
You're not that smart.
Yes.
So we're not going to like try to like make it more difficult for you to understand. Don't do X.
Yeah.
Do this. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot of people with ayahuasca and DMT. That's how they describe it. It's like Graham Hancock, who we've talked about
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
you know, who's big. He wrote the Fingerprint of the Gods. Interesting guy,
Good, good,
worth
good.
reading his books. But he
Yes,
talked about
fast.
ayahuasca, and it was like he saw a creature. He called, I think, a serpent deity. He said, and he at that time was abusing marijuana. Like in his own words, he was like,
It's like
it,
overwhelming. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
a crutch.
Yeah.
Like he was using a crutch, and pretty much like that vision he saw, or whoever it was, whatever it was, or his unconscious, was like, you got to stop. Like this is not good. Like it wasn't. Oh, let me think all these visions and like maybe this is what it means. It was like, no, no, stop doing this. Like
Yeah.
you need to stop doing
Well,
this.
exactly right. Yeah.
And I think, well, there was a comedian who recently did it. What's the comedian who on stage usually smokes either like a cigar or cigarette? White. What's his first name? Ron
Ron
White.
White. Ron White.
Ron White.
Ron White.
I
Yeah.
think he did ayahuasca, and it was similar. Like he stopped. I don't want to say he stopped drink. He stopped doing something
He
that.
stopped drinking. He cut out alcohol
Yes.
entirely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was like you need to stop, and I
Yeah.
think it was like not wrapped with any mystery. It was like stop doing this type of scenario.
Yeah. That's like.
Which I'm dumb. I think that's what I need. I don't want to have to decipher it. Like I want my unconscious to be like, stop doing this, this, and this, or start doing this. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
treat me like a baby. Like I want to be taught.
That's what.
Like
That's what the counts.
no, yeah, no mystery.
No, I guarantee you, Corvo, and I want to do a future episode on this. I fucking guarantee you that you're gonna see the gestures and they're gonna tell you something. Now, I don't know what that's gonna be. That's gonna be in your own mind. But
Correct. It'll be the
it'll
lesson I need to
right.
hear.
But the lesson I heard was kind of like what you were saying. The gestures were like, stop And for me, it was ego and arrogance. They're like, stop fucking thinking that you're gonna be this super important, life changing person to everyone else because you're only doing it because you want to be. Because I realized I had some kind of like, I have some personality trait in me that wants to constantly be liked by everyone, constantly affirmation,
Yeah.
constant affirmation. And they're like, stop it, stop this, this is what's holding you back. And it was cool, it was cool.
Yeah. No,
So
I think what you're describing, because that's how I took it too. I was more like, and I think that what you heard surprisingly is something that a lot of because I could relate. I might hear a very similar thing because I fall into a very similar camp of like, you thinking you're special, thinking that you have a purpose, that you're like meant to do something great. And I've had conversations with other people, and I think part of it is maybe our own personality. Part of it I do think is the culture we've grown up in at this time, where this is like, if you go on YouTube, this is the mantra that has been bred into this generation of like, grind, get your, do this, do that, get better. So like you're always thinking like, I over the next hill, get a little, all that stuff. But again, yeah, I think it's just like, you're right. It's a foolish, it's a fool's errand. You're gonna die, right? I think that's part of what they're
mm-hmm,
trying to
mm-hmm.
say. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, who are you? You're immortal. Like, this is the age
Yeah,
old question,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Like, all mythology has talked about it. Like, how many stories is it where some king is humbled by the gods? Because no matter how big, it's like Jeff Bezos or whoever, any of these people, you're a billionaire, but you're aging. You're gonna die. Like, it's gonna happen. And all of your money and all of your power, at the end of the day, it's
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
probably save you from that. It might hold off the Grim Reaper, but the Reaper is coming. And like, to the gods or to God or whatever other entities that exist within this realm that we live in, it's kind of like, you're immortal, man. It's like, no matter what, you are dust in the wind. You are a snowflake that was here today and will be melted tomorrow. Like, you said, like, you're the
Yeah.
grass in the field
You're
that,
just a one blade of grass in the field.
correct.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, why? So I think part of that is like, it's a humbling of like, dude, check yourself. Like, remember who you are. It's like, even Caesar had someone on his chariot telling him like, don't forget, you're immortal. Like, you can die. Like, you will die.
Yeah.
I think we all need that check. But I think in that, like you said, I think what you felt is also a release,
Yeah, man.
because it's like, all right, like, what? I don't need to do like, it's an ease, it's a weight off your shoulders. It's like, dude, it's okay to just be and like enjoy life and like
Yeah, it's lit.
enjoy the simple pleasures and like
That's the
not worry about so much things. And like, no one is putting this pressure on you but you, right? Like, no one else is, everyone else is worrying about their own thing. Like, you are just like everyone else, striving and fighting for all of these things, of which, like, you don't know if they're going to make you happy, like if they're going to end in anything positive.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm glad you had a good experience.
No, no, no. That's I mean, I think you and you summarized it perfectly right there. I know that's what it is. That's how I know that you would enjoy this. You
Oh
need
yeah,
to
I
do it.
think I
Yeah,
need to check. I think periodically, I know, I for myself, I need to check. I need a humbling, and I need ego. I need to be destroyed. Like,
yeah. It annihilate. The way I described it is it annihilated my ego
yeah,
because I thought, even, I mean, we all, as you said, we all have our different situations and circumstances, and we all go through different traumatic experiences in life. Like, life is hard. There's suffering. There's always suffering in life, but there's always happiness and joy. And what this did, it didn't make me suffer. You think when you're told you actually don't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. Most people would take that as a like you said, like an insult, a negative. I took it as this is like it was something, it was like a liberating, it's the word,
Yeah.
it was a liberation. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, not that I don't matter whatsoever, but this is like the opinion that I had of myself was a very poor opinion, and that led to a lot of bad choices I made in my life. I think that's, in
Yeah.
one sentence, that's the best way to describe
Yeah. That dude, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I just think about how a lot of I don't know, like a lot of like a lot of we talk about the destroying of the ego, and I think of like a lot of mythology or like religious text where it's like a human is confronted by the supernatural, and how like in that confrontation, it's usually fear, shock, and awe, like terror. And I think part of that, like some people say that a lot of these like religious texts, the person what they're having is a like a psychedelic experience. And the reason I think there could be truth in that is just that I think when you're confronted by that which is supernatural, I think the byproduct is a destruction of the ego because you see where you are in the hierarchy of things. And by extension, you're just like there's no lying. You can't deceive yourself anymore. Like if tomorrow you were confronted by a dragon, you turn down a side street and there's a dragon in this
it.
alley.
Yeah.
Like, dude, right? I think your mind is just going to be blown, or you were confronted by a deity or a supernatural being. You're just going to be like no longer can you self deceive or inflate who you are. You're like, I am very low on the pecking order of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Like who what I thought I was much more important than I am.
And at
And I think that's a good
it's
thing
a
when that
great
happens.
thing. It's so freeing and liberating. That's the way I would describe it. But it's like, remember that scene in Game of Thrones, and I know you know this because you brought it up to me. It's when the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, Georg Mormont, grabs Jon Snow, a young Jon Snow, and he
Mm-hmm.
pins him up, and he's like, "Who are you? Who are you?" And Jon Snow doesn't know how to answer, and then he finally gets it. He's like, "I'm just a steward." That's how I felt. That right there
Yeah.
is was my DMT trip right there. It's like, "Who are you?" I'm just a steward, but not that it's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing to be. We're all stewards in ways. We're all
Yeah,
different, but we're all safe.
we're
Yeah,
all servants of
yeah,
someone.
exactly. That's how I felt.
Um,
Yeah.
there's a good line in Gladiator where you've seen Gladiator? I know you've
Oh
seen
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Several times. Yeah.
So Russell Crowe, who is a Roman general, is talking. He's been kind of asked to do something from his master, right? From Caesar, from Marcus Aurelius,
Uh,
and
yeah,
it's
Joaquin Phoenix.
no. This is Marcus Aurelius is the
Oh yeah,
father
that's
of
right.
Joaquin
That's
Phoenix.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix's Commodus, his kind of like
Correct. Correct.
crazy son.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like Russell Crowe's getting his things together, and he's kind of contemplating this massive ask that was made by his boss, by his master. And then he goes to his servant and he kind of asks, like, "How do you do your duty? Like how do you're my servant, right? You're a slave in a sense. Like, how do you like just kind of ask him, like, how do you make do with life? Like how to do things that you might not want to do, right? You are not your master, someone else." And he says something to the effect of like the servant says, right? Like sometimes I do what I want to do, but usually I do what I must do.
Hmm.
And I think in our society, there's some like there is some freedom in that, right? Like in that we're all servants to someone. We're all maybe we're masters to some, but we all have people that we're servants to, and we're not in charge. Like we got to face facts. Like you're not in charge. Like in many aspects of your life, you're not in charge. And I think stress comes when you, I don't want to say you don't accept the reality of things. And that's where you start to cause yourself like self harm. But I do think there's an ease that can come when you accept, like, there's certain things you have control over and there's certain things you don't have control over. The things you don't have control over, the intelligent person lets go of, because
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
stress out about things of which I have no ability to change? It's like worrying about getting old. It's like that's something that you have no control over within reason. Um,
Hmm.
and then just to focus your, the scope. This is very much like Stoic philosophy. It's like
No, that's right.
focus the things on the things that you can change and you have the ability to change. It's just like worrying, like Stoicism would say, and the Bible would say, is like worrying does nothing. You can't worry one hair on your head from black to white, from white to black. Like, right? It's if you can't, why worry? Like you can change things you have control over, and those things you have control over, don't worry about them. Go try to change them now. But if you can't change it, then the act of worrying, all it does is put weight on your shoulders,
That's right.
stress.
That's right.
And I think that's kind of like ties into a little bit with what they're saying to you. It's like, dude, it's like, stop.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Because
be free, like free yourself of these things.
for you, you're right. Because and the good thing for you and I is we're at an age where we're not. I mean, you could consider us older. Yeah, we're in our late 30s, or at least me, and and is that's not really that old if you think about it. There's you still have more than half of your life if you take care of yourself and you
I
do.
mean, you have a
Yeah,
lot of life
yeah, you
left of
still
you.
have a lot. There's still a lot for you to do. So like the
Yeah.
fuck off with this bullshit that you're thinking about and again and like we're telling you I'm trying to help you. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the 30s is a weird, just to kind of segue. It's like 30s is a weird age because I've there, it's, you're not young, but you're not old. Like, like I'm 36,
Yeah.
right? You're in our day, like if you take care of yourself, there's a lot of life,
Yeah.
a lot of life. Like, you know what I mean? There are a lot. Like you are young by comparison to other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with 30 is the mental shift that takes place because you start to think about different things. You think about things differently. Like, I don't want to say starts to move faster. It also moves slower. You're like, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like,
Mm-hmm.
30, like, if you think about you're 36, but like, all right, from 0 to how many years you were a kid, you're not even really thinking about things. You're just reacting. You're in school, well, 4 or 5 years, then you're in school, then you're you're just doing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then maybe in your 20s, you start to kind of like, you're maybe making moves or trying to steer the ship in a certain direction. But like by your 30s, it's like, I have 35 years of steering the ship. Where is it going to go? What do I want? So I think that to me is the biggest thing that starts to change, is like,
Yeah.
what do I want my life to be like? Like
Yeah,
you
it's
start to like
interesting. Yeah.
become a little sober with like how you think. It's like, all right, I have to make these things happen. Like, what do I actually want? So I think that's the interesting thing that starts to happen in like in
Yeah,
your 30s.
yeah. I think that I did that unintentionally, but that was a perfect segue. And so
Well, I know this is
yeah,
something also you had wanted
yeah.
to kind of talk
But
about
can
a
I
little
ask you?
bit.
So let's
Yeah,
let's
go ahead.
let's flip the table a little bit. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions,
Sure,
and
go ahead.
because I think you're hit on at least the ethos of what I want to see with these questions, and because life changes drastically when you're in your 30s. So I'm gonna throw out a couple statements at you, and you tell me how you handle these things. Because now, like I
Sure.
said, so basically what we're gonna do is there's things in your mid 30s, and I actually glad I did DMT in my. I still want to do ayahuasca. Still haven't done that. I've done DMT in my 30s, and it's a different experience because I've already kind of maybe my brain was already leading towards thinking about these things. So for you, Chris Corvo, is your calendar planned out weeks in advance now that you're
N-
older?
No, I mean
No,
I've never been good at that, but
neither have
I
I.
guess
Yeah.
um I think that's a personality trait. Like I know people in their maybe in their 20s that are like that, so I don't think I
Mm-hmm.
know. But to maybe change the question a little bit, I think
Yeah.
I'm just becoming more. I'm starting to ask myself if that's something I need to do. Like, all right, like life can get away from you, and you have to be intentional. And when you're in your 30s, your moves need to matter. They matter more, right? You can kind of piss your 20s away. Many people do. You shouldn't. Anyone who's listening to me who's in their
Don't do
20s,
it.
like,
Yeah.
don't do what I did. Like, be very shrewd and strategic, because what you end up doing if you do that in your 20s is you buy the rest of your life. Whereas if you don't do that in your 20s, you can still do it later, but you're working. You dug yourself a little bit of a hole, and now you're having to work just to get out of the hole. Um, so I think for me, when it comes to like looking to the future, it's not necessarily. I'm not doing it. I should be doing it, um, but it's more or less just a realization that you have to become intentional in what you want and where you want your life to go. The idea that things will just work out is not is a I think in your 30s, if not sooner, hopefully sooner for anyone listening, but for me, it's like that's not reality. Anyone who tells you that is lying to you. They're not lying to you to
Mm,
hurt you,
mm,
but they're telling you a fairy tale that the sooner you realize that's not reality, especially for men, the better your life will be. Like life does not happen by accident. It doesn't. Like the people who I've met who have achieved things and have the lives that like other people would like to have, it's usually due to hard work and being intentional. And also it's being willing to sacrifice the present for the future. So like that's me right now trying to like learn the lessons I should have learned in my 20s that I'm trying to learn now in my mid 30s. And it's not too late, but I'm very much aware that the margin of error is the window is gone. Like I now need to make like good decisions and be a little bit more strategic in my choices.
mm. Yeah, I like that. Uh, that's I would say that's I don't even I can't even think of something to say. I think I fully agree with
Like
that.
this is stuff I think about a
I
lot
think I
lately. Like
fully
I
agree
had
with.
like a midlife, I want to say a midlife
I
crisis, but
think I
like
agree with that. Yeah.
Corona was a wake up call. It was just like,
Yes.
dude, I can do a lot more in my life, and I've been afraid to fail. So I'm the type of person of if I'm afraid to fail, I don't do something.
Mm,
Whereas the right attitude is like fear is perfectly fine. Be afraid of things, but don't let fear stop you from doing things. Like people fall into two camps. There's people who are afraid to do something but they're willing to do it and struggle till they get good at it. And then there's people who are afraid to fail and they don't want people to see them fail, so they don't do anything. If you're in that latter camp, like that is something that you need to break as soon as possible because that's like
it's
I think that's one of the
beneficial.
number
Yeah.
one things that will hold you back in life. Like you have to be willing to be like, you know what, I'll be bad at this for the next 5 years, but I know that at like 6 year 6, I'm not gonna be bad at it anymore. I'm gonna be good at it, and like just be willing to like struggle through it. That's a lesson I have to. I like Corona was just like, you know what, fuck this. Like I can do more. Like I'm a smart guy. Like I'm intelligent. Like why am I settling for like mediocrity when like I can do a lot more and kind of create the life I want to live? So that was like I think part of that was being also in my 30s where I'm just like shit, dude. Like I gotta get I gotta get off. Like I have to make moves. Like I have to work. Like I have to get stuff going, and it's gonna be hard. But like if I don't, like I might like tomorrow I'll be 45, and it's like it'll be even more difficult. Not impossible, but it'll become much more challenging.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's right. I think that the pandemic introspection changed a lot of what I think about as well. So I agree with that. There's I mean, to your point, I think it's never too late. Like, you still have time, but the sooner you realize the things you said, it's gonna just be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never too late. As long as you have, this is why I believe every religion kind of like says that murder is evil, because murder, this is a slight aside, but I've thought
Mm-hmm.
about this a lot of late, is like why I think most religions, and I think this is most religions would say this, and anyone like, even if they say, just trust me, like I've read the Bible, I've read
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a lot of religious texts.
Yeah.
Like most religions, murder, and they might make a distinction between those they kill in combat, war, but I mean murder, like someone who is of your class, is of your community, that you killed, who was not your enemy, right? Like most religions, there's that clause, there's a classification that is murder. And I think that, at least my take for Christianity and probably for most religions, is that the reason why murder is such a sin, is why it's so evil in most cultures, is because to murder is to take away someone's possibility, right? As long as you're alive, there is a possibility. Like life can change. Like there's so many stories of people who their life was going in one direction, and then somehow it ends in a completely different direction, right? As long as you have breath in your body and a mind that can think, there is possibility. And therefore, to like kill someone, it's such a sin because you've eliminated their possibility and you have no idea what that thing is. You know what I mean? Like how many people go their whole life, and then like the sum total of their existence is that like at this one moment in their life, they discovered this thing, this vaccine, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you had
Mm-hmm.
stomped their life out anytime before that, it's like, think about what you have done. Like you've stomped out this magnificent thing that they would have discovered, or this person that they would have become, or the family they would have raised. What right do you have? And I think that's why most cultures see that as almost like an affront to the gods. Like, how dare you cheat fate, cheat
Interesting.
destiny of
Yeah.
this person?
Yeah, it is. I see an element of that, but I also see this may just be like a paranoid, cynical side of myself, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. But what if what if you take someone's life because you know that later on in the future they may take someone else's? What do you feel about
I
that?
mean, if we
Yeah,
go into like,
yeah,
yeah, if we go into, that's when you're getting into
yeah,
like Minority Report
yeah.
and like predestination. I don't know. I mean, that comes down to, is like, if you believe in like destiny, like will someone, is it written in stone that this person will do this thing? Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a conversation for probably
That's
for a different
probably a
day.
different, yeah, yeah. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that out there. So let's go to a
Next question.
lighter question.
Next question.
Um, does current entertainment and music irritate Chris Cobra?
Now that I'm like,
Yeah,
so music, we've had this
we
conversation.
did.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty much a basic bitch when it comes to music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do think I noticed one thing with TV and movies of late, like especially now that like Netflix is making all these movies, is that like I do think like people who say like the attention span is like dwindling, and like a built like stories, for example. Like I was watching a movie the other day. It was like a Netflix movie, and like the first 10 minutes are literally like this, like like this action John Wick scene. Like it's just like there's no story, right? Like for the first 10 minutes, it's like there's just no story. There's no building up of characters. There's no like layers to
Mm-hmm.
the character struggle. It's just like glorified TV shows, that like one episode of a TV show. Where I do think, like I noticed with a lot of stuff, is like, let me bombard you with a lot of movement, and
Violence.
like a child, you're just going to be so distracted by shiny things that like you will not realize that literally we wrote the script is nothing. Like there's no value here, there's no story,
There's no
there's
substance.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I do think that that's something that's happening with entertainment. Like how many years ago was it when when Game of Thrones was on. Is it 10 at this point?
Yeah, it started in
More than 10, probably, right?
no, it's 11. It's I believe it debuted in 2011. April
Yeah.
2011, I believe.
Okay, so like I think those shows will always exist because I don't think people are dumb. Like I think people crave that kind of stuff, but I think for a lot of these streaming services, it's just easier. Like it's easier to give you shiny things with no plot and no story than it is to come up with a Game of Thrones. So I think that like I've noticed a more and more of the latter of like shiny glitz. Let me get a couple actors that you'll recognize and like, but like we could have wrote the script in a weekend. There's nothing here. It's just a lot of like shiny action scenes to show you. Um,
Yeah, I think
so yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I'm sorry to I didn't mean to cut
no,
you.
no, go ahead.
I think that's exactly right. I share a similar look as I've gotten older, and I'm good. I'm 36 now, and there's I've noticed that entertainment now is exactly what you said. It's and just look at Westworld. This is actually a really good example. The first season of Westworld was all conversations about existence, existential philosophy,
Yeah,
religion, everything. Like what it means, like even politics, everything. It was the first season. Obviously, it had a couple of action scenes, but it was mostly just conversations with Anthony Hopkins, who's our boy. Love Anthony.
yeah. I
I
mean,
love the Hop.
great,
And
great. It'll be a sad day when he passed.
yeah, that's good. That one's gonna hurt. And so and then you see the last season of Game of Thrones where it's all motorcycle chases and shootouts and explosions. It's like it went. The show literally went in 4 years from something really beautiful and well written and constructed and produced to CGI shoot 'em up superhero movie. That's what it went to.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't. It's not surprising. Like, it's easier. It
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
easier. Like, if you think about it, like one thing from my brief time or my time in arts and whatnot, it's like when you write a screenplay usually comes down to like a minute of television or a minute of film is usually a page,
Mm-hmm.
roughly,
Yeah.
right? So like if you're having to come up with this elaborate story and like beautifully crafted dialogue, that takes like a lot of skill and a lot of time.
Yep.
Or just like you've been touched by the muse, the muse, like you just like
Mm-hmm.
are channeling something and just like the words are coming to you, but like to do that again and again and again, like if you think about it, season one, Anthony Hopkins had monologues, like
Yes,
beautifully crafted monologues with layers upon layers. Like he did a great job delivering them, but he had something good to work
that's
with.
right. Yeah.
But that takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and I think people are just realizing in entertainment, like we don't need to do that much work. Like people will watch our show. Like if we can get Brad Pitt to be the main character, it doesn't matter if he has no lines. Like we'll get people to watch. We'll make our money.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
That's good that you said that because that's what I think about all these reality shows like Love Island is there's this show called Love Island and I only know it because I go to Football Factory and everyone knows I go to Football Factory. So there's in England there's it's basically the English bachelorette. It's some kind of show where everyone is only in bathing suits the whole time. They're all cheating on each other. They're all dating each other, and then they cheat on each other again. And that's what people love now. They're like, Love Island is awesome. It's like Love Island, dude. That's the show. That's the premier show, and it's gotten so big that now they made an American version of it that's on NBC now.
Dude, the one thing I think about this a lot. Like in my life, the main addiction I have
Yeah.
is like TV. Like I've watched TV since I was a child.
Yeah.
Like right, and if you think about it, it's a new new phenomenon. Like TV has not been around for that long where people watched it on a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like it is not good. Like how many hours of your life have gone into consuming entertainment? And I think like people like you got to think about this. People have realized human nature for a long time, right? Like the Caesars through had games and did gladiatorial combat and did all it's entertainment. Like they put on festivals, shows because when people are entertained, we don't think. And myself included, right? Like I'm thinking is hard. Like doing work is hard. Starting a business is hard. Learning a new skill is hard. Playing an instrument is
Yeah.
hard. Learning a language is hard, right? Like studying jujitsu, doing yoga. These are hard activities. Watching TV is easy.
Yeah, you.
And human beings like to do what's easy. Like it's our nature.
That's a great description.
Um,
That's a great description.
and it's kind of a shame that like our cultures we've just become experts at creating entertainment. Like this is entertainment. I mean, this is why I'm kind of go back and forth with the concept of like YouTube and podcasting. It's like, do humans really need another form of entertainment? If anything, I think humans need like a deletion of all entertainment because then you're forced to entertain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes with attention span. I think this is why people at different times in history had more skills. Like people all played an instrument because it was just like shit. We got nothing to do. I don't know.
That's why the music was
Ju-
better back
Ju-
in the day.
Judy plays a guitar. You know, brother Bob plays the flute. You know what I mean? Like you learn stuff because you're like, fuck, I got nothing else to do.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think like it's good to have entertainment, but I do think we're like taking it too far. And like with um not AI, but like virtual reality,
Like
which will one day be here.
a
Like
augmented
it
reality.
exists, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like to a degree where it's like commonly used. That's just gonna be another form of entertainment, right? And like people, it's just another like you talk about like possibilities and potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're constantly being entertained, you're never gonna know what you're capable of because you're not gonna try. At least this is what I find in my own life. Like I know I'll watch a dumb show rather than go work on a hard programming problem because working a hard programming problem is hard and stressful. And watching, a stupid TV show is funny and it's like, it's the entertainment of the peasants. So like, it's bread and beer, man, keeps people happy.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. That was very profound. And but the one thing I would say, at least for myself, I'm not trying to toot my own horn and be arrogant about this, but I'm saying, at least for me, I never fell into, I would call that a trap, because all of these quote unquote salacious, scandalous reality shows are all scripted and engineered, like you said, to entertain you so that you just sit on the couch and do nothing. There's nothing
Oh yeah.
real about it. But what I've noticed is I want nothing to do with that. And if I want to socialize, I go out into the real world and do it in
Yeah, and I think
person.
it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good. All
Yeah.
right, what other question do you have? We'll do another third. Like,
Yeah, we
I want
might
to do
have to
when we
wind
get
this up. Yeah.
Joe. We'll do a part 2 with Joe because I'd like to hear Joe because Joe's also in his 30s.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of fun to do like have a little more of a round table. But what other? This is kind of like the beginning of
It's a
that
teaser. It's a
conversation.
teaser.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
teaser because I mean, it's the 30s. I saw something once that was like I think it was a quote from maybe like a Buddhist text or something. It was like life starts at 40,
That's amazing. I love that quote.
and
Wow.
I never clicked on the link
I
to
should
actually
actually.
follow
I
up and
might
read
read that after
it.
we go off. Yeah.
But it was like I thought about it. I was like, there's some truth to it because you think about it, right? Teenage years, you're hormonal,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why in most cultures that's when you start to procreate because it's like you're fucking like you're just like
You're
you're out
literally,
of
yeah.
control.
You can't help yourself.
Boys are ODing on testosterone. Girls, it's just like baby making. Like that's like you're not in your right mind. Um, and what's funny is that you're trying to go to college. Like you know what I mean? It's like it's just very weird. All right, 20s. depending all this is all generalization. Like everyone's different, right? But like your 20s, you're kind of still in that. Maybe you're in college, maybe you're out of college, but like you can either be really shrewd with your 20s or you can fuck them away, right? Like it's kind of like a toss up.
Yeah.
It goes in both ways. But you're also like you're in it. You're like life is kind of happening. You're doing stuff. You're maybe it's your first job. You know, maybe if you're more traditional, you got married. So like life is happening at you.
Yeah.
I think when you're 30s, think like your hormones have balanced a while ago. If you're in a job, you've been in it for a while. If you're married with kids, you kind of are in. You've done that for a little bit, so you kind of worked out the routine. And I think you start to think, and you're like, oh shit, like if you have kids, this is also different. I think if you have family of kids, if you have family and you have kids, life is happening at you, and I think a lot of your life is reacting. You're reacting, like you got kids, shit just has to happen. But I think if you're single,
Yeah.
like in our case,
Mm-hmm.
it's a sobering time because you start to look around. You're like, shit, man.
It's
Like,
true.
where is this going? Like, it can get kind of depressing because you're like, all right, it has for me at least. It's like, all right, like 30 more. I have a lot more life left.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it just gonna be this? Like, it depends on how happy you are with your life. If you're happy with your life, you're like, shit, man, this is great. Like, I got 30 more years. But if you're not happy with your life, you're like, all right, like, what do I want to do? Where is this? Where is this? How am I going? What am I? How am I going to write the story? And I think for a lot of people, it's the realization of like, knowing is no one is coming to save you. Like this is a David Goggins line.
Mm-hmm.
No one's coming to save you, guys. Like this, is especially for men. No one's coming to save you. Like no one cares if you succeed or
Yeah.
fail. Like no one does. Like your parents do. Like the only person in this world who maybe truly loves you is like your parents because you're their offspring. Like they genuinely want you to do well.
Yeah.
Everyone else doesn't give a shit. Your friends may or may not care. Your love interests, they don't care. Like this is
Yeah.
if you want stuff out of your life, it's got to be you driving because no one cares. Like no one's going to come and help you. No one's going to like pull you up out of the mud. Like you got to do it. And like I don't know about for me like that's a 30s
I've
realization.
also realized that as well. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, for if you found that out earlier in life, great. For me, it takes me a long time to learn things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I learned it later,
Same.
or I always knew it, but I just wasn't willing to admit it to myself.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what it is. Like it's like sink or swim. It's the Game of Thrones. Kill the boy, become the man.
Mm-hmm.
Right when Jon Snow, like that's the true statement. Like kill the boy, become the man. Like don't lose sight of the child inside of you, but you have to admit to yourself like your mom or your dad is not going to save you. Like you should know that already. And
Yep.
most of us, we're all living on our own anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's no one helping. There's no one there. Like there's no safety net. It's like you got to do it, or you become one of the lost ones, like I call it, like those who fall through the cracks of time. And it's like you meet them. We've all met them. They're in their 40s, 45, 50, late 30s even. It's like you talk to them and like it's like someone you meet at a job where they shouldn't be working that job. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
you don't want to be them, right? You don't want that. Like they are still struggling to like make
Figure
do and
shit out.
like
Yeah.
figure shit out. Like, nah, man, like you have to, and it's not too late. Like again, as long as you have breath in your body and a mind that can think,
Mhm.
it's never too late. But it will become harder. And I think that's the 30s. Like 30s is like, all right,
Yeah.
either get up and do it or not. I don't know. Like I don't even know if you have an option. It's like get up and go. And if you got a dream, pursue it. Like that's the other thing. It's like if you have a dream, if you want to be something or whatever that thing is, it's like and you've not been pursuing it, like if you're in your 30s, go now because
Yeah.
when are you going to do it? You're going to
Mhm.
10 years from
Yeah.
now? Like if you want to go write a book, go start fucking writing your book. Like
Yeah.
when else are you gonna do it? Get it done. Go. If you want to get married, have kids, like fuck, you
Yeah.
better start looking for a mate.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You're gonna wait another 10 years to do it. I think that's the thing. Like when you're in your 20s, you can say
You
10
can
years from now I'll do
procrastinate. You
that.
can procrastinate. Yeah.
Yeah, you can say like when I'm 30, I'll get married, or when I'm 30, I'll go do that thing. When I'm 30, I'll go back. Whatever. When you're 30, you no longer have that. You can't say that anymore. It's like,
Hmm.
no, it's not 10 years from now I'll do it. It's like, no, no, I got to, like, can I do it in the next year or so? That I think is a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's an instrumental thing that I've realized myself when I've gone to this age and during like the past couple years, where it's like, first of all, you're not 9 years old anymore where your parents are going to feed you, take care of you, and they're going to save you from everything, right? They're going to protect you, probably is the best, in one word, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
And also, if you there's something you want to do, fucking do it right now, because it's not your last shot, but you got to at least start it now, because like you said, you can't procrastinate, you can't keep pushing it back. And my problem was I always kept kicking the count, uh, not the count, I keep kicking the can
Yeah.
down the
You kept
road.
pushing.
You keep pushing it back,
Exactly.
keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back. And no, you got to do it. This is the time right now.
Yeah. The biggest advice like I could
Yeah.
ever, and this is like if someone ever, no one would ever ask me this,
Yeah.
but like if a younger person was to ask me advice, which doubt it will happen because it's like, who am I to give you
Yeah.
advice? All my advice would literally, because most people try to give you advice of things they did. I'd give you all the advice that I didn't do. Like if I met like a 20-year-old and they were like, Chris, like give me some life advice,
Mm-hmm.
right? As someone who's like maybe 15 to 16 years older than you, my advice would be like, one, get skills.
Mm-hmm.
Get skills. Like have as many skills as you can. That is the way to freedom, right? This whole idea of like getting a good job, fuck it. It's not important. Like get skills that will give you freedom, right? Skills that will like a lawyer. Lawyer's a good skill.
Yeah.
You can be a lawyer anywhere, right? It's like pass the bar, you can be a lawyer, right? That's a skill that no matter what, you have that skill. You computer programmer, accountant, like any of these things that like people try to look down on that, like, well, that's not cool. But it's like, dude, that's a skill. Like that's a skill. And at the end of the day, like the goal is to have freedom in your life, right? Is to be able to paint the picture that is your life in whatever colors you want. And for someone who's like, I worked at the Apple store, I worked around all these art people, and I met a lot of older people that were in the arts. I'll tell you straight up, that is a fool's errand, right? Like you, like pursue the arts if that is your passion, but like be smart about it. I have met so many people who are like old, like in their 70s, and I've been in their apartments and they got no money. It's just like they,
Mm-hmm.
in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, they made a mistake.
Yeah.
Like they've now their later years in life are going to be horrible. Like they're not. It was not. It's a lie. It's like it is a lie. Like if you want to be a photographer, you don't need to go to school to be a photographer. Go on YouTube, become a
Just
photographer,
start taking pictures. Yeah.
right? You don't need to go pay NYU however 100K to learn how to photography to do photography. It's just like you don't need to go to NYU to learn how to be an actor. You want to go be an actor, go start a YouTube show.
Yeah.
And
Start
like if
acting.
you're gonna go to
Yeah.
college,
Exactly.
go become like I don't know, whatever else. Like have a plan B, right? This whole idea that like the being in the arts and like you don't want one of these jobs, you want to just be an artist. It's like, dude, those people, I've worked with them. You know where they work? At the Apple store, right? Like how many
Yep.
of them
Yep.
failed at like they never achieved their goal and they never had a plan B. Like always work be like, dude, you're a king. I'm pretty much just peeking the guys, right? Like or you know, a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're a queen, right? It's like you're the king of your life. You're the queen of your life. Be as strategic about things as you want. If you have goals, like be smart about them. Like if you want to be a painter, fucking paint. But you don't need to do that and struggle and work in an Apple store or wait tables to be a painter. Like you could go be a freaking CEO of a company, you could be a VP of engineer, whatever, and be a painter. And if tomorrow your painting starts sells for $1 million, then fuck the other job and be a painter full time.
Yeah.
Just be smart. Like those are the things I would tell people is just like be strategic, acquire as many skills as you can, and dude, learn about money, right? Like how many people no one knows about money, and that is the thing that like causes people the most freaking stress in life. Like the people who know how to manage money, they win the game, right? We're all playing a game. No matter what anyone says, you're in a game. Learn the rules of the game, learn them very well, and master them, and you will win the game, and you will have a happier life. I don't know. That's my rant for
Yeah,
today.
no, I think that's what DMT, to round it up, that's what DMT taught me. I was misguided for a long time, and now I'm comfortable enough to admit that. And you're right, it's like it it took me the I would say the pandemic through now change it didn't change me, my personality. I'm still the same Bobby A you've known your whole life, but it's changed, like you said, my goals and perspective. Now I'm fully at this full clarity when I know I have to do. And
So
this,
give me go ahead. Sorry, finish what you're
yeah,
saying.
no, it's I know what I have to do in life. It's gonna take too long. We This is gonna be, that's a whole nother episode. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hey, sorry guys. We had a little technical difficulty. So we're going to wrap up this episode. I just wanted to ask the question one more time. With all your experience with this DMT, we talked about also our time in our 30s. Like, what is one thing that is present in your mind that you're going to do now? Like, what is one lesson you took away from your
Mm.
DMT experience that's kind of concrete and crystallized in your mind?
Okay. All right. So there's what I want to do is change the perception of what being a sports fan or just a supporter of athletic competition is in general, because mostly I, at least in America, and definitely from what I've experienced in England and Canada as well, is if you like sports, you're a stupid dumb jock. And what I want to change is there's a scientific and even artistic way to watch sports. And I think my goal is to start analyzing and portraying and demonstrating athletic competition in a way that's seen more as an art form, just as, like we were talking about earlier, someone paints something, someone makes a film, someone writes a book, everyone loves it. Oh, you're so artistic, that's very smart. And I want to do that in a sports way. So if that makes sense, right? That's I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great, and it's good that you have that kind of like now you have a
That's
vision,
that's my
and it's
goal.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, how am I going to do that, and like, what are the steps to accomplish that? Great.
Hmm.
Hey, dude, I appreciate you. You taking the time to kind of share some of this, your DMT experience, but also like some of the personal things of like,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Everyone's psychedelic experience. It's personal. It's coming from you,
Yeah, man.
and that's a vulnerable space. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll do it. Trust me. You would, of anyone that I could ever think of, it would be you and Birchin. We have to do it, and I'll do it. We'll be together, and it's quick. That's the only thing. You're not gonna be tripping for 5 hours. You'll be done in 8 minutes, eight to
Yeah,
10 minutes. You'll be good,
which is nice. All
which is
right.
cool. Yeah, but
Well,
it's
hey,
intense. But like you
yeah,
said,
that's what I'm
it
saying.
is
8 to 10 minutes of
intense.
like, all right, let me go
Whoa, yeah,
shoot myself into the sun and then get back out of it.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm down. I'm down. I'll make my way to New York and we'll do it
yeah,
one weekend,
yeah.
like no guaranteed.
Hmm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I hope you're all doing well and tune in for the next one.